Hello and welcome to another Let's Play of Eldfall Chronicles. Once again, we are in the tunnels below the Kara village, where the Coalition of Thenion tries to get the artifact hidden in this pillar, and the miniature that has to get to the pillar is the Hunter Guild, the Rangers Guild Hunter, this way around. And as you can see, and as usual, 2 golems, 2 gargoyles, and 1 colossus guard the artifact. And as you can see, I totally forgot to prepare the colossus because in the last 4 games it was not relevant. And for this game, usually there is the darkness rule, but the Coalition of Thenion ignores that, so therefore only the constructs, the hostiles, are affected by the rule. So with this, I will prepare the first turn, and I'll see you then. In the Coalition of Thenion's first turn, the Knight Temple Priestess activates first, and in the strategy phase, she gets flying using her ability, and then with her activation, she decides to stay idle to not get into the way of the Slayer Dragoon. And she spends her first activation to generate a mana token, just in preparation for draining impulse if necessary. And she uses her second activation to cast the Fiery Fever onto the Slayer Dragoon. She does not need to roll because she has the Enchanter class, which means that she will succeed on enchantment spells on allied models. Therefore now, the Slayer Dragoon has removed a Fear, Bleeding, Poison, Confuse, Cripple, and so on conditions. And the more interesting part, the Slayer Dragoon actually gains +2 offense and defense, increasing her offense to a total of 19. So let's see who will activate next. Next, the Slayer Dragoon will activate, and she will use her activation to dash forward. And as you can see, she will end close enough to hit the golem, but for the golem to be unable to initiate a confrontation. Therefore, with this said, let me just put the token next to the Slayer Dragoon. The golem will spend its activation to dodge, and the golem has 1 die to dodge. The Slayer Dragoon has a strike value of 1. The golem has an agility of 6. Therefore, the golem needs a 6 or less. With a 5, the golem successfully dodges unless the Slayer Dragoon manages to roll a critical hit. Since she's an assassin, she will need a 1, 2, or 3. And with a 12, she would be able to hit, but since the golem dodged, she missed the golem, and the golem will dodge towards her, getting in base contact, which means that both get the engaged token. Let me see who will activate next, and I'll see you then. Unable to wound the golem in the previous turn, the Slayer Dragoon activate next, deciding to attack the golem once again. And this time, since the golem is in base contact, it is allowed to attack too. Therefore, this becomes a confrontation. The golem has a defense value of 13. It sets the lower bar with an 11. Therefore, the Slayer Dragoon has now rolled between 11 and her buffed offense stat of 19, or a critical hit. And with a roll of 19, she thankfully hit because of Fiery Fever. Therefore, she wins also the confrontation. And once again, she has a chance to win the golem, 13 or less. And with a 6, she managed to wound the golem, which means that the golem takes 2 wounds because the Slayer Lance has the cleave ability. So I'll think about the activation of the Rangers Guild Hunter, and I'll see you then. I was a little quick about ending the Slayer Dragon's activation because the Lucas Rex gives her the hit and retreat ability, which means that she's now allowed to move up to 9 inches away, 6 and another 3, cancelling the engage state of the golem and herself, and she does so for the Hunter Guild Ranger to move 6 inches closer, and since he is not affected by the darkness rule of this mission, he will use his activation to shoot at the golem. The Ranger's Guild Hunter has a short bow, which has a strike value of 2 because of his stamina of 2. And with this 2 attacks, offense of an accuracy of 14 or less. And here we have a 7 and a 6, both aren't enough to hit. The golem, unable to react because he has no activation points left, has to take the hits. The power of these short bow hits are usually 10, plus the Assassination 1 trait of the Ranger Guild Hunter means that he will attack with a total power of 16. Once again, the golem has an armor of 8, therefore he needs 1 8 or less to wound the golem. And here we have a 2, which is already enough, and the 12 is not enough, but as I said, the 2 is enough. The golem gets a 3rd wound, and therefore it is destroyed. The Ranger's Guild Hunter's last and final activation will be him moving again 6 inches closer and shooting at the gargoyle. The gargoyle cannot react because it has an awareness equal to its agility, and its agility is 8, but since the darkness rule is in play, it is halved to 4, and with 4 inches there's absolutely no way of it seeing the Ranger's Guild Hunter. With this, the Ranger's Guild Hunter has 2 unobjected strikes at the gargoyle. Once again, accuracy of 14 or less. It's an 5 and an 8. Once again, total power of 16. The gargoyle has an armor value of 5. Therefore, 111 or less is enough to destroy the gargoyle. And we have a natural 1 and a 16. The natural 1 is enough to destroy the gargoyle, which is removed from the play. And with this, the first activation of the Coalition of Thenion was very effective. The Ranger's Guild Hunter destroyed the weakened golem and the fresh gargoyle, leaving the hostiles with only 1 golem, 1 gargoyle and a colossus behind. Before I activate the hostiles, I forgot that the Ranger's Guild Hunter is also the Ranger class, and therefore he moved 6 inches back. Otherwise, this gargoyle used, according to the mission rules, 2 work action because there was no line of sight to another enemy model to just reposition. And as usual, I will use my rule to make an awareness check for the golem to see if it is allowed to act. Despite the darkness rule, it has an agility of 6, therefore an awareness of 6, 6 or less to activate. In its first turn, it's a 15, therefore it is not allowed. And its second attempt with, once again, 6 or less. This time it is a 17, and therefore it just stays where it is. The Colossus will not react at all. Therefore, let me think about the next turn of the Coalition of Thenion, and I'll let you join then. The Coalition of Thenion's second turn will start with the Slayer Dragoon, which will activate, and using once again a dash action with a total of 18 inches instead of 12 and 13, 14, 15. She does not need to run as far. She will just run close enough to be within range of her Slayer Dragoon lance. The gargoyle will try to react by declaring a dodge action. The Slayer Dragoon then, once again similar to the golem before, tries to hit the gargoyle. The gargoyle has an agility of 8. Therefore, for the dodge, 8 or less. And it's a roll of 2. Therefore, the Slayer Dragoon needs a critical hit, and as before, since she is an assassin, she needs a 1, 2, or 3. And with a roll of 14, she would not usually hit, but not this time. And the gargoyle is able to dodge closer to the Slayer Dragoon and getting in base-to-base contact, giving both of them the engaged state. The Slayer Dragoon will immediately activate again, and the gargoyle will respond by attacking the Slayer Dragoon. Therefore, we once again, not attacking, dodging, just had a look at the gargoyle's card, and target of an attack, line of sight, and within 0 inches, which is the case in base to base. Therefore, the gargoyle again tries to dodge. So, the gargoyle setting the bar, what the Slayer Dragoon has to roll. With a 14, this time the gargoyle is unable to dodge. Slayer Dragoon 17 or less. With a 13 it is enough to hit. Total of 23 minus armor of 5, therefore 18 or less to destroy the gargoyle. With a roll of 11, it is more than enough to destroy this gargoyle, cancelling the engaged state, and the Slayer Dragoon is once again allowed to move as soon as I find my measures. Okay, I do not know where I have put them, therefore I will just eyeball, but this should be absolutely enough. So, I think about who will activate next before letting you join and become part of my decision. Next, the Knight Temple Priestess activates. She used a run activation in her first action to reposition, and she spends her second activation point to generate a second mana token. And then, once again, for the last activation of the Coalition of Thenion, the Ranger's Guild Hunter will activate. He will use also a run action first to reposition, getting up to here. And now he has a clear line of sight at the golem, which will be his second activation. He will not spam, he will not move, therefore stays idle. Once again, he has 2 attacks. The golem is outside of his awareness because of the darkness rule. Therefore, the Ranger's Guild Hunter is allowed to shoot 2 times unopposed, meaning he needs 14 or less to hit. We have an 8 and another 8, therefore 2 hits. And since the golem has an armor value of 8, once again the Ranger's Guild Hunter needs an 8 or less to wound. And we have a 5, which is the first wound, and a 10, which is not enough to wound the golem. With this, the golem gets a wound, and since he was hit, he's allowed to rotate and face the Ranger's Guild Hunter. So with this, I will rule that the golem is allowed to activate in the next turn and walk into this direction. Trusting on its natural bulk and unable to think for itself or at all, the golem will run towards this direction where the attack came from, as I said previously. This will trigger some reaction, or only one, because the Ranger's Guild Hunter will use this action or his reaction to once again shoot at the golem. Since it's his reactive turn, he only has a single strike, 14 or less. It's an 18, therefore he misses. And now the Slayer Dragoon will react. I will just correct myself, because otherwise the golem would be most likely to attack. Therefore the Slayer Dragoon will stand in the golem's way to oppose him. With this, the golem will activate again and get into contact with the Slayer Dragoon. The Slayer Dragoon has a total defense of 11 and a dexterity of 12. Therefore, she will try to dodge against the attack of the Golem. The Golem has the Fist of Stone, which have a strike value of 2. But before that, the Slayer Dragoon has a single die to try to dodge, 12 or less. It's a 9. Therefore, the Golem needs a natural 1 to get a critical hit and score. He has an 18 and a 7, which is not enough, but enough for the Slayer Dragoon to dodge outside of contact, but still within her reach of her Slayer lance, to give the Golem the engaged state, meaning that it is unable to move around and attack one of the more vulnerable teammates. Let's see how the turn of the Coalition of Thenion will continue. The turn will start with the Night Temple Priestess, who will just fly a little bit away after spending her activation point, and then casting once again the Fiery Fever onto the Slayer Dragoon to increase her offense to 19 and her defense now to a total of 13. And then the Slayer Dragoon will activate next, attacking the Golem, who is not in base-to-base counter, therefore it will react by dodging. The Golem has an agility of 6, therefore needing 6 or less. It's a total of 18, therefore unable to dodge. Will the Slayer Dragoon hit with a 19 or less? It's a 17, even without the buff, the bonus of the Night Temple Priestess she will hit. Total power of 23, armor of 8, therefore the Slayer Dragoon needs a total of 15 or less to destroy the Golem. It's a 2. Why to destroy the Golem, even if it has 3 hit die? Once again, the cleave ability of the Slayer Dragoon lance activates, causing 2 wounds, destroying the Golem. I'll think about what the Coalition of Thenion will do next, and you will see the result. What happened at the last turn? As you can see, all of the models of the Coalition of Thenion just repositioned with the activation. The Colossus didn't activate it in its own turn, so now, once again, the Coalition of Thenion starts, since the Ranger's Guild Hunter is the one who has to get to the column and receive the artifact. He spends his first activation running 12 inches, and he activates his second activation to use an attack action with the column receiving the artifact, and once again the Colossus crumbling to dust. So I will clean up the board and I'll see you at the after action report. Okay, after action report. I think the Night Temple Priestess was just an accessory in this game. She did not really something important, or except with looking Stunish, because this is a courtesy to the model. And yeah, but in gameplay she didn't have to do a lot except of not getting in the way. The Slayer Dragoon, on the other hand, she prepared both golems, or she slew one golem and prepared the other golem for the Ranger's Guild Hunter to destroy. The Ranger's Guild Hunter, this game I would say he was the most valuable model of the party. He not only destroyed a golem and a gargoyle shortly after, but he also managed to get the artifact and win the game. As expected, it was a quick game. Didn't assume that it will be difficult because of all the previous experience I had with it. And I'm really curious about the next game, and maybe this is the first of 5 factions, including the neutrals, who is able to win the 3rd game. Otherwise, we have to see with the new factions, the Goblins and the Oni, if one of them will be able to win the Heart of Obsidian campaign. Until then, have a good day.